So we are here today to talk about Georgia's starting quarterback this year, Gunnar Stockton. Right off the bat, if you're new to this channel, I'll be posting this video on Facebook and YouTube, but this video is primarily for YouTube. Do me a favor, hit subscribe if you like Georgia Bulldogs and college football content in general. I even post videos all the time about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But this today is going to be a football video. And if you're new to the channel, you'll notice that I do a lot of pacing around. I seem to think better when I do that. I can't really process my thoughts. I have to walk through my thoughts. So if you get a little motion sick or whatever, this is really just a listening video. I'm going to be walking around right here the whole time, so you can just even set the phone down and just listen if that's what you have to do. But we're talking about Gunnar Stockton today, Georgia's starting quarterback going into the 2025 season. Carson Beck led the Georgia Bulldogs for the previous 2 seasons, and as we all know, Carson got injured at actually it was the very last play before halftime in the 2024 SEC championship game, where Georgia come back from being down at halftime 6-3 and beat Texas in overtime to win the 2024 SEC championship game. I had an Alabama fan telling me, and this is like a side note, I had an Alabama fan telling me a couple months back, Georgia and Alabama, they both just kind of fell off this year and just had some garbage seasons, one that you just want to just kind of throw away and forget about. I was like, hold on a minute. The Bama fans, they base their success off what Georgia's doing. It's like because Alabama had a bad season, that means that Georgia automatically, they also had a bad season. I was like, hold on a minute here. Alabama might have lost to Vanderbilt and went down there and got spanked by Oklahoma and all this and that, but Georgia won the SEC championship game and had a first-round bye in the playoffs. I don't know what we're talking about here, but Georgia didn't have a throwaway season. I wouldn't say an 11-3 SEC championship season was one I'd be willing to throw away. But regardless, at any rate, before I get sidetracked. Now, before we get to Gunnar, I must spend some time because, talking about the elephant in the room, Carson Beck, because I was one of the ones, or I was probably one of the only ones last year who spent so much time defending Carson Beck. And when everybody was saying, get him out of there, he's got an interception problem, he's a punk, he's got this look on his face like he doesn't care. He's just always looks like he's moping around. He thinks he's better than everybody. Let me before we get into Gunnar and how I believe he's going to be able to do this year and how I feel about the season. And I am usually on more of the positive Disney dog side than I am the negative pessimistic side. And I know people fall on both sides. And talking to people this year about Gunnar, people either feel really good about it. There's some people that really don't know. There's some people that are kind of in the middle. I'm one of the ones who is on the more positive side. But before we get into what I believe Gunnar can do this season and why I think he can do that, I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about why I defended Carson Beck for so long and stood by him for so long. And Lord help me, I'm going to do the best I can to not talk about Mike Bobo today, because if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I am a full believer in Mike Bobo. I defend Bobo. Bobo was averaging 30 and 40 points a game from 2007 to 2014. Bobo was calling plays last year. Receivers were dropping the ball left and right. The team was leaving 100 to 150 yards passing on the field and drop passes all year long. And Bobo just catches all the crap for it, and it just doesn't matter what happens. If Georgia wins or loses, it's going to be Bobo's fault if they lost, and it's not going to be any credit to Bobo if they win. Even though Mike Bobo was the one who was training Gunnar Stockton and coaching Gunnar Stockton to be able to be ready to come in halftime of the SEC championship game and to go right down the field. I mean, this guy gets thrown into the game in the middle of the SEC championship game, losing 6-3 to Texas, and takes the team right down the field and scores. And somehow that's all credit to Gunnar and no credit to Mike Bobo. But Lord help me, I'm going to try hard not to talk about Mike Bobo today. But I can't make any promises. But on to Carson Beck and why I defended him for so long. Do you realize we live in a day and age of entitlement and transfer portal and NIL, and these players, if they are not starting the game, and if they are not getting a lot of minutes, and if they are second string, they better be seeing the field a lot, and there better be a good chance that they could take over as a starter. And if they're not happy, and if they don't get everything their way, and if they don't get the exact amount of NIL money they want, they're not happy playing college football on TV every Saturday and getting a free education at the University of Georgia, the University of Tennessee, the University of Michigan, Ohio State. They're not, that's not good enough for them to be getting a free education, playing college football on TV on Saturdays, and making $330,000 a year isn't enough, because I got this school over here saying they'll give me $500,000 a year. So this is the world we live in and have lived in for a while now. And I believe they are starting to get a wrap on it here with this new revenue sharing thing, where the team is going to be splitting money with the players based off the TV money they make, and with several things going on with the president, and Trump and Saban have been having a lot of meetings, and just a lot of rabbit holes we could go down there. They're trying to get a wrap on the NIL thing to try to make sure players are getting actual NIL money, and not that the teams are paying the players money and then funneling it through a little company. The Taco Bell over here on Poplar Street, saying that Taco Bell's giving this offensive lineman $500,000 a year to play college football. I think we're getting that kind of under wraps here, but that's neither here or there. In the world of NIL and transfer portal, where these players can just do whatever they want, and people say, well, the coaches go wherever they want. How come the players can't? The coaches have things called contracts, and if they break that contract, they either owe back the money that they had already been paid for the years, or they do not get the money that they were promised. It's a little different. Also, there are 4,000 or 5,000 players in the transfer portal every year. There's not 4,000 or 5,000, and I do believe that I'm not saying that players should never be able to transfer, but there should be special stipulations. If you there should be a limited number of transfers. I believe there should be certain restrictions put in place where it can't just be that just because you don't get your way, and just because you're not happy making $200,000 a year playing college football, that you can just go say, hey, forget you, I'm going to go over here and play for this team, and I'm going to make $225,000 a year. Anyway, I think you get my point on this. And if you know me, I'm bad about going down rabbit trails. The point I'm trying to make is Carson Beck. In this era of players doing this, I respect that Beck stayed and was even the third string quarterback. The man sat behind Stetson Bennett, who was a walk-on, who led Georgia to 2 national championships. The man sat on the bench, rode the bench for 2 or 3 years. I think it was 3 years, and waited his turn. He bought into the system. He listened to Kirby Smart. He listened to Todd Monken. He listened to Mike Bobo. He stuck it out, and he stuck with Georgia when everybody else was transferring. Everybody else was saying, see you later. I'm going to better myself. I'm not worried about the team. I'm worried about myself. Carson Beck stuck it out at Georgia, riding the bench for 3 years, and he learned the system, and he got better, and he was a highly rated player. This isn't some low 4-star, some mid 3-star guy. This guy was, I believe Carson Beck was a borderline 5-star. I mean, he was the real deal. Like he got named like Mr. Florida one year in high school football for his accomplishments. I mean, this guy was awesome, and he waited his turn, and he stuck it out and stayed with Georgia the entire time. And then he finally got his shot, and Georgia in 2023 went 12-0 and made the SEC championship game against Alabama. I'm not making excuses or getting into that, but Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, the 2 leading pass catchers, were hurt. Our best offensive lineman was hurt. These guys are all first-round NFL draft picks, and Georgia played terrible, and Alabama played an amazing game and barely beat Georgia by 3 points. And that's the only game we lost in 2023, and we were kept out of the playoffs. Fast forward to 2024, Carson Beck is still our starting quarterback. The schedules have gotten twice as hard for everybody, not just Georgia, but Georgia had the hardest schedule. Literally everybody in the world, everybody and their brother, ESPN, 247 Sports, any sports entity you want to look at was claiming that the Georgia Bulldogs had the hardest schedule in the country. They had home games against Auburn, Tennessee, and Mississippi State, and that was the easy part. Then they had to go on the road and play at Alabama, at Ole Miss, at Texas, and then their easy games was against teams like Georgia Tech, who are on the rise, you know, and you just watch out for Georgia Tech and Brent Key. I'm telling you, I don't like Brent Key. I don't like his attitude. I think he barks up the wrong tree a little too quick. The man knows how to coach football. And Georgia Tech's on the rise. So Georgia went, and with that schedule, and with a lot of injuries on the offensive line, and we didn't have that great of a running game this year, they went 10-2. They lost to Alabama, they lost to Ole Miss, and they beat Texas twice. They had a lot of really ugly moments and a lot of really awesome moments. And I defended Carson Beck the whole way through the process because he stuck with Georgia. And even when he was having an interception problem, if you've ever watched football longer than 2 minutes, you know that every quarterback in the world, Tom Brady goes through a phase where he has an interception problem for a minute. Drew Brees and Peyton Manning have a season every once in a while where they'd have an interception problem for a couple 3 or 4 game stretch, and it clears up. You have to be patient. See, fans who have never played football and fans who sit on the couch and watch the games, they think that just because a player plays one bad game, that you're supposed to fire the offensive coordinator, fire the offensive line coach, and bring in the backup quarterback, and that just means that Georgia's going to go 12-0 and win the national championship after you do that. It just doesn't work that easy. It's not that simple. And if it was, they wouldn't be paying guys like Kirby Smart $13.5 million a year to get it in order. Okay, and that's where I need to stop right there before I go down the Mike Bobo trail. But I believed and I stuck with Carson Beck because he stuck with Georgia. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt in a lot of situations. Well, come to find out, and a lot of people tell me, well, we just knew that before you did. I don't believe that. I don't believe people know what's going on inside of a locker room. Who, like I said, we sit on our couch on Saturdays and watch the game. The thing that people were telling me that was Carson Beck is a punk. Carson Beck is a punk. And I just know he had a look on his face all the time, but I didn't buy too much into that as other people did. I mean, we all have our own personalities and stuff, but it did seem at times that I could catch a vibe that he was a little more concerned about himself than the team. And I tried to look past it. I tried to defend him, like I said, because he stuck with us for so long, because he waited his turn. It seemed like he really loved Georgia. This is the thing with Carson Beck that I think happened. And this is why I believe this is why we have a problem in this sport this day and time. He did stick around and wait his turn, and I think he was humble along that process. But then whenever he gets, and I'm not talking about Georgia, they're going to get it from anywhere this day and time. He's going to get money from Ohio State. He's going to get money from Tennessee. He's going to get money from USC. He's going to get money from Oregon. He's going to go get money from Alabama. Miami just paid the dude $4 million to skip the NFL draft and come play another season. But it seems like, looking back, hindsight's 2020, when Carson Beck got a hold of the money and when he's riding around in 2 Lamborghinis, it's like he changed. He became a punk. He became kind of a punk. And that's what I believe the issue was with Carson. Georgia put all of their eggs into the basket of Carson Beck, and why wouldn't they? Would you not? I mean, when you got a 5th-year quarterback who has literally, I was hearing reports that Carson would know answers to questions about offensive schemes faster than some of the Georgia offensive analysts. I mean, Carson knew more than some of the coaches. There was nothing he couldn't do, no play he couldn't run, no check he couldn't make, no good position he couldn't get us in. Why wouldn't you have put all your eggs into Beck? Okay? In that same process, Beck gets the money. Beck starts getting a little crazy, getting a little in over his head, thinking he's Superman. And let me tell you something. Every one of us, okay, I got super speeders in a 1998 Ford Ranger when I was Carson Beck's age. I can promise you, if you hand me $3 million when I'm 20 years old and put me in 2 Lamborghinis, I'm probably going to do a lot worse than Carson Beck did. So let's just get real here. I mean, come on, guys. You cannot hand a kid that is 18 to 23 years old $3 million in a Lamborghini and expect them not to get in trouble, and expect a coach of any team to watch over 105 of them and make sure they don't even get a speeding ticket. I mean, get real. Get real. This is the problem with society today. Everything goes, but then when everything turns haywire, it's supposed to be somebody's fault. You know, it's just crazy. I've went down the Carson Beck road a little longer than I wanted to, as I usually do. This whole video is about Gunnar Stockton. it's 15 minutes into it and we haven't even talked about Gunnar Stockton. But anyway, when Carson was having the interception problems, I stuck with him because he stuck with Georgia for so long. The moment that changed with me for Beck was whenever Georgia was playing in the SEC championship game and Carson gets injured, and in comes Gunnar Stockton at the beginning of halftime. And I literally seen the body language of the offensive line and the entire Georgia team just went berserk. And as soon as Gunnar made a little 7-yard run, the team went crazy. And as soon as he made, Georgia was in I'm actually watching the game right now. Georgia was in a 3rd and 2, and he rolls out and makes a little 7-yard, simple little 7-yard. Arian Smith runs a little slant route, a little slant route, and goes out and catches the ball and makes a simple catch and first down, and the team goes crazy. And it begins to dawn on me that maybe there is more to this than I am making out in my mind. Maybe Carson really is not sitting well with some of these guys in this locker room. And I'll be the first to admit, hey, I was wrong, But when I say I was wrong, I don't mean that Carson, I don't mean it like people were putting it. Like, Carson Beck sucks. He's terrible. We got to get him out of there and fire Mike Bobo. We got to fire the offensive line coach. And we got to bring in our 4th string. George ain't never done good with 4 or 5-star quarterbacks. We got to go find us a walk-on like Stetson Bennett. That's when we want 2 national championships. We need. I don't mean like I was wrong like that. I meant I was wrong about the vibe in the locker room. Okay, I did not believe that it was as bad as some people were making out, and it's still not as bad as some people were making out. But there was no doubt that it was a little worse than I had portrayed, and a little worse than I had made in my mind, because there was no doubt the body language of the change of the team when Gunnar came in. And now everybody wants to be right, and everybody, when Gunnar comes in and drives them down the field and they score a touchdown, it's all great, and it was good. It was a good. I just watched the drive 5 seconds ago. But you watch the rest of the game, and there were a lot of stumbling moments. There was a lot of sputtering and puttering, but because people have been saying all year that we should bench Beck and bring Gunnar in, Gunnar is now getting the benefit of the doubt when he messes up. When Gunnar throws an interception against Texas, and when Gunnar has a couple of bad plays, that's just okay. But when Carson Beck does it, that's a problem. We need to fire Mike Bobo. So it goes both ways, and at the same time, let me tell you something right now too. I love Gunnar Stockton. Okay, my dad has sent me articles in last year's football season that literally I couldn't love Gunnar anymore. If you want to know the truth, I root for Gunnar to succeed more than I root for Carson to succeed. But if Carson Beck was a bad quarterback, Miami wouldn't have paid him $4 million to come back for 1 season. I can assure you that. But Gunnar is the type of guy. He doesn't get any more Georgia. He doesn't get any more American. Okay, this article I read said something about his great granddad, or maybe even his great granddad, was not a pilot, but he was like, basically, he was a gunner on a plane in World War II and shot an automatic gun off the side of this plane, and they nicknamed his great granddad Gunner because he shot the gun off the side of the plane. That's why they generations later named Gunnar Stockton. I mean, it doesn't get any more. That puts chills on the back of my arms and on my neck, and it's like, I already like this guy. And then you hear how Carson Beck is driving a Lamborghini around campus, and who wouldn't if you were handed $3 or $4 million as a 21-year-old? I might not have been driving a Lamborghini, but buddy, I'd be driving something. I can promise you that. We'd have one of them 2025 GMC Denali's with the nicest bass boat they make on the back of it, and plenty of hunting land and plenty of places to fish and hunt. I mean, we're gonna have some stuff. And you get reports that Gunnar is driving around in his granddad's old F-150, this old late 80s, early 90s model F-150 that's got over 300,000 miles on it. And the air conditioning don't even work in it. And he rides around after practice with the windows rolled down. There is nobody on God's green earth that wants Gunnar Stockton to succeed that more than me. I love this guy, and I actually am about to transition this video into getting into Gunnar Stockton and why I think he can succeed in this world of these players looking out for themselves and only looking to see how much money they can make. Give credit to Kirby Smart for going out and finding guys like Gunnar Stockton. And the guy behind him is just about the same way, Ryan Puglisi. He's pretty down to earth too. And the guy that Georgia just recruited, the #1 quarterback in the nation, Jared Curtis, the more I hear about this guy, the more I like. And his parents have him humbled, and you know, they have him humbled for now. Let's see what happens when they hand him $2 million. I mean, you know, like I said, I better not even get down that rabbit trail. But I've talked to my dad. I've talked to several people. There's people comment on my stuff all the time on Facebook. People comment all the time on my YouTube videos. I'm just saying I've got the general feel for the mixed ways, the mixed reviews that people see the 2025 season going for the Dogs. Some people really believe in Gunnar, and they're feeding off of last year in the SEC championship game when he had one good drive. Let's be real. He had one good drive, and Georgia won the game. And it was because of Gunnar Stockton and Mike Bobo having him prepared. Okay, some people are very positive about this year, and some people are on the opposite spectrum, and they're very negative, and they think, well, Gunnar is not that highly rated, and he even though he was a mid-ranked 4-star. I mean, he wasn't trash. A lot of people feel like it's going to go really good for Georgia or really bad, and some people are right there in the middle. I am more on the positive side, and I do feel like Gunnar is going to lead Georgia. I'm not saying a national championship. I do think they have a good chance to win a national championship and an SEC championship, but like I said, it can't always be that or misery. Like if we're sitting around waiting on Georgia to win a national championship all the time, and if they don't, then it's just miserable. We might as well fire everybody. I don't know why Kirby's such friends with Mike Bobo. You know, Kirby Smart just is out here, and I think I know what he's doing. He's trying to ruin his legacy as a coach by hanging on to Mike Bobo. Yeah, that's probably what he's doing. No, it's not that. I think that Gunnar Stockton, the main reason why they're going to have success with him is because the boy loves the red helmet with the black G on the side of his head. He's not like Carson Beck. He's not like Nico Iamaleava, who just left Tennessee to go to UCLA and ended up losing money. Okay, he's not like some of these punks that are walking around today that are just in it for themselves. He is in it for the red and black, buddy. He wants to play for the G that's on the side of his helmet. And tell me if that doesn't remind you of a guy we had a couple years ago that Georgia won 2 national championships with, former walk-on Stetson Bennett. The boy just loved the Georgia Bulldogs, and he comes from a good lineage, and he comes from a family. Like I said, his granddaddy was in the World War II. The reason his name is Gunnar is because his daddy was a gunner in World War II, and driving around a F-150. And are all these things going to translate to actual football on the field? Absolutely not. No. But sometimes it takes more than that. Sometimes it takes more than being 6'5", 230 pounds. Sometimes you got to have a little bit of what's built on the inside, and what Gunnar lacks in physical traits, I can promise you he makes up for on the inside with that heart. And he loves the Georgia Bulldogs. You could tell when he came in, and they didn't have a great game against Notre Dame. They didn't have a very good game plan. Everybody blames Bobo. Bobo was pretty handcuffed. You know, the receivers cannot catch. They led the world in drop passes. We had offensive linemen hurt left and right. We could not get a running game going. Georgia had put all their eggs into Carson Beck. And I just said, after the season was over, you just wait till you give Mike Bobo an entire offseason of Gunnar, knowing that Gunnar is our quarterback and he is also a run threat. And you just you let them get that scheme geared around Gunnar, and you see how they do. Those boys love Gunnar. Gunnar is a natural leader. And I heard a report. I heard a little video. It was either this week or it was earlier this week or last week. I forget what source I heard it from. It's like Dog Nation or Dogs HQ maybe. Said that Gunnar. It was Tate Ratledge. Tate Ratledge said it. It might have been on his show. Said that Gunnar is the type of person. It don't get no better than this. He is like when they take the helmets off and when it's back to normal life, he's quiet, doesn't say a word. And there's nothing wrong with a guy who doesn't do a lot of talking. Yeah, a lot of situations, that's a good thing. He doesn't do a lot of talking, and he's real quiet. But they said it's something about him changes when he gets on that football field. And he will go to popping the mouth off that. He will go to talking a little smack. And when he come in and lowered his shoulder against that Texas cornerback here that I just seen a minute ago, the team went crazy, and he did turn around and give him a little lip. And you know what? in this soft world we live in this day and time, that's just football, okay? That's just football, okay? When you get out there and you're playing football and you're throwing your body around, it gets violent, okay? It gets heated, for a lack of better words. And Gunner turned around, and Tate Ratledge said when he puts that helmet on, something shifts inside of him, and he goes to a competitor. And that just reminds me so much of Stetson Bennett. And you know, guys, everybody wants to act like, well, in this world of transfer portal, you know, we've had a lot of hits and some guys transferred, and we got some good guys, but we lost some good guys, and all they're worried about is NIL money. You know, people want to act like that's only for Georgia. That's everybody. Ohio State's dealing with that. Alabama's dealing with that. Texas is dealing with that. LSU's dealing with that. Everybody's dealing with that. You don't have to do it perfectly, and it's impossible to do it perfectly. You just have to do it better than everybody else. You just have to do it better than everybody else. And I have heard that Kirby has went, and they said that over the last 2 or 3 years, Kirby has got a little softer and was going a little easier. And for a lack of better words, I'm paraphrasing here, was kind of being more buddy than, hey, I'm on your butt every day, and you got to get right. And I heard inside reports said when Ole Miss, I believe it was Rusty Manziel, maybe who said this, maybe I'm wrong. I listened to a lot of people. Said that when Georgia went in there and got pushed around and whipped by Ole Miss last year, something changed inside of Kirby. Kirby has went back dark mode and has went back, hey, we're going to play football, and we're going to come off the line, and we're going to strike you in your face mask, and we're going to push you around, and when it's 3rd and 3, we're going to get the first down, and we're going to come off the line harder than you, and we're going to hit you in your mouth, and you ain't going to like it. And Kirby has went back dark mode, and I just see this setting up very positively for Georgia, and I do believe, you know, there's really no telling. I was talking to my dad yesterday. There's really no telling about teams. We can talk about it and speculate about it and realize, you know, oh, we got this great offensive line this year. We got these great receivers this year. But there's really no telling what's going to happen until they kick the ball off for the first time. And you can't go into watching 1 or 2 games and think this is what it is. By the time you get into games 5, 6, and 7, you can tell who you are as a football team. And there's no telling what that's going to be or really look like until it actually happens. But as of right now, I have a very positive outlook for Gunner Stockton. By the way, this guy, you know, I'm talking about him as if he's like, you know, he's like me out there with a lot of heart. This guy broke Trevor Lawrence's record in Georgia high school football history for, I don't remember what it was. It was either most yards or most touchdowns. Maybe it was both. But Gunner Stockton holds the all-time Georgia high school football record for either most touchdowns or I believe it was most passing yards in a career. That's saying something, buddy. Okay, there's been some good quarterbacks come through the state of Georgia in high school football history. So he's not a slouch, and I think that people are going to see that this year. This is the main thing, and the video's done. I believe that this team believes in Gunner because they see that Gunner believes in Georgia. So they are going to rally around him. They believe in Gunner because Gunner believes in Georgia, and they believe that when it comes down to it, he's going to lead this team and do whatever it takes to win. If that means passing for 300 yards, he'll do it. If that means if that means having to take a shot to make a first down, he'll do it. And they will get behind him, and they realize that he loves them. They will begin to love him, and they will defend each other. And when you get in a locker room with a bunch of guys who believe in each other, and then on top of that they're all 6'4", 250 to 350 pounds, it's dangerous. And you got a guy like Gunner who just makes me give even more credit, like I said earlier, to Kirby Smart, who can go out and find these guys. And when everybody, and yes, Georgia just got a really good quarterback in Jared Curtis, the #1 quarterback in the nation, but he's not a punk. He's not a punk. You can tell by his interviews, you can tell by the way he committed, you can tell by the things his parents are saying. He's not a punk. Give Kirby, because Kirby is willing to go out and do the work to find a guy who really wants to play football, who really wants to lock in to their university and do what they have to do to climb the ranks. And Gunner has sat on the bench a long time too. Gunner could have went other places, and don't you think for a minute that people weren't trying to get Gunner. There's a lot of SEC teams right now that would love to have Gunnar Stockton as their starting quarterback this year, with the grit that he plays with and the determination, and just, I don't know. I don't know how else to put it besides I believe this team is going to rally behind Gunnar, and it's going to be a shift in the locker room. It's going to be a shift philosophically. The team plays a lot better when they got a guy they love and believe in and knows they'll go to war with him, and I believe that's what Gunnar is going to bring to the table. It might take a little while, okay? When Georgia opens with Marshall and Georgia opens with Austin Peay, and then they go on the road and play Tennessee, it might take till about a little ways after that Tennessee game, when Georgia has a bye week before Alabama comes in, for Gunnar to really get his feet under him. It's one thing to practice, but it's a whole other thing to be in the game. But once he gets his feet under him and gets comfortable and realizes, okay, this is the deal. These are my guys. I got a good offensive line. And by the way, I got another video coming up soon on running back Nate Frazier. If you want to talk about Disney dog, wait till you hear my video on Nate Frazier. And if you've made it this far in the video, I do appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. I know I'm real long and drawn out, but I do enjoy making these videos, and I do love Georgia, and I do love college football. But like I said, wait till you hear my video on Nate Frazier, because I am overconfident in this guy. I think this guy truly has the potential to be the next DeAndre Swift. I think he's got the potential to be the next Sony Michel, Nick Chubb type guy. He's going to be really good. He's really special. I think that Gunnar is not the most talented quarterback in the country this year, but I think he may have the most heart out of any quarterback in the country this year. And I think he loves the Georgia Bulldogs, and this team's going to rally behind him, and Kirby will have that defense right. Look, in this world we're living in right now anyways, there ain't no more 2021, 2022 teams that's got first-round NFL draft picks playing second string. That's not coming back. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to do it better than everybody else is. And I believe Georgia's got a good shot to do that behind Gunnar this year. Thank y'all for watching.